Hello, my name is Adam Grossman, and I'm the founder of the Seaweed Bath Company. I founded the Seaweed Bath Company because I was diagnosed with psoriasis when I was 21 years old. It started on my scalp, and over a 6-year period, it spread from my scalp to most of the rest of my body. I went to different dermatologists in Texas, Colorado, and finally in South Florida where I was living, and the condition only seemed to get worse. They kept prescribing stronger medications. Finally, I was at a point where I was on heavy topical steroids. I was wearing gloves to sleep at night because I couldn't get the steroids on my face or on my wife's face. And I would wake up and I'd be bleeding from my elbows, my knees, and my feet. It was caused by deep lesions due to the psoriasis. And long story short, I was just at a very unhappy time and uncomfortable point in my life. One of the things that people don't realize when dealing with a skin disorder is that it's not only a physical condition, but it's also mental. And a lot of these drugs that I was on would have my skin clear up for a period of time, and then it would come back worse, and it can only be described as depressing to watch your skin get better and then come back worse. So finally, I was at a point where the dermatologist recommended that I go on these systemic biological shots. At that time, I was not comfortable with the long-term effects of these drugs. They're very difficult on your liver. And so after watching the DVDs with my wife, we decided against going on the biological shots. And at that point, I started to research and learn about psoriasis. Psoriasis is an autoimmune disorder. Current research, they don't know exactly what causes it. Some people say it's hereditary. However, nobody in my family has psoriasis. So what psoriasis is the inflammation and scaling of your skin. So whereas a normal person, their skin will replicate every 28 days, my skin will replicate every 3 days. So a lot of the drugs I was on, they inhibit the growth of my skin, and in turn, would prevent it from getting inflamed in that area. One thing that's normal in a psoriasis sufferer, eczema sufferer, is they get little red dots everywhere. They're inflamed, and the worst part about them is that they're itchy. So you end up picking at that spot. One spot kind of morphs into another spot. Before you know it, you have a huge patch. And then that patch morphs into another patch, and before you know it, your whole arm is covered with a red, inflamed, itchy kind of lesion. After 6 years of going to dermatologists and really not having the drugs they prescribed me work, my condition got to a point where I had to do something different. And I wasn't willing to go on these biological shots due to the long-term effects. And so I started researching for myself. I got involved in the National Psoriasis Foundation, started talking to people online in these online chat rooms and support groups. And one thing that kept coming up was that the ocean always seemed to calm their skin down. At that point, I was living in South Florida, and although my work schedule wouldn't allow me to go to the ocean more than once a month, every time I went, it kind of quelled some of the itching and inflammation associated with my psoriasis. So when someone told me about thalassotherapy and these ocean-based treatment spas that are popular in Western France, it kind of made sense to me. And when I saw that they had really good results with it, I started looking into it. And I found that one of their most important treatments, or the most popular treatments for people with skin problems like mine, were these seaweed baths. And so I found that interesting. I looked into seaweed baths, and they actually started in Northern Ireland in 1912. Today, it's a niche business, mostly in Northwestern Ireland, where they have these seaweed spas set up. So I ended up reaching out to a few of the proprietors of these seaweed spas, and they confirmed what I had heard from some of these people online, that they were having success with people not only with psoriasis and eczema, but even dry skin. They'd come and soak in their seaweed spas, and they'd find them very soothing. And so I actually found a lady in Galway that ran one of these bed and breakfast seaweed spas, and she sent me 20 pounds of her bladderwrack seaweed she used in her spa, and I broke it into netting, put it in the bath as she instructed me to, and after a few baths I really noticed a difference in my skin. So I decided to stick with it, and over a course of weeks and months I noticed a substantial change in my skin. I was able to slowly wean myself off of the topical steroid buffet that I was on at that time. So it took some time to develop our product line, However, what we did was, first of all, we found harvesters in Ireland, Nova Scotia, and Maine that were able to sustainably harvest the bladderwrack seaweed that I found so beneficial for my skin. Today, they harvest the seaweed, they hand harvest it, we dry it naturally in the sun, and then we use it in its whole form, its powderized form, as well as in an extract form for our line of products. Tell me how you harvest this.
What we do is we'll look at the plant. This is your holdfast, which attaches to the rock right in here. You want to leave at least to the first lateral branch. So that means when it comes off the root, as it starts branching off, you want to leave that section of the plant.
Okay.
And you would cut right here on your plants.
Okay. And what is that? What's the purpose of that?
This is so it regrows. See, you leave this much back on the rock, and this will all regrow again. So basically, you're pruning the plants.
Okay.
We're doing nothing more than pruning them.
How long does it take for it to grow back?
Approximately 3 years.
3 years.
3 years to a reharvest.
Okay.
So in this area, we would only take 25%. We wouldn't even take, don't take any more than 25%. And then just leave it alone for 3 years and come back.
I actually had a friend in Los Angeles. He had severe psoriasis down his right leg. I said, hey, Mitch, this seaweed's been helping me. I know it sounds a little out there, but you want to try it out in the bath? And he said, sure. So I sent him some. 2 weeks later, he's like, Adam, you got to send me more. I can't believe how well it worked for me. And at that point, I realized that, hey, maybe it's not just me. So we ended up going to the National Psoriasis Foundation Conference in July of 2009 in San Antonio, just with one product. I got a little booth, and it was Allison and I. We had our fresh whole seaweed product in a bath that we actually sell today, and just to see if anyone was interested. It was me and mostly pharmaceutical companies exhibiting, and none of the exhibitors had suffered like I had or gone through this experience. And what I found was that many of the attendees had the same experience I had, which was they were over-promised and under-delivered by everybody. The dermatologists, the consumer product companies that say, hey, we'll cure your disease and this and that. And they'd spend a lot of money on it. And they were willing to try my crazy seaweed bath product. And so we gave out a lot of products. We got 150 responses by people who thought that the products really helped them and they wanted us to come out with the line. Actually, from those 150 people, we narrowed it down 6 months later to 32 people who were diehards that were willing to try our Ocean Fresh Whole Seaweed Bath as well as our Wildly Natural Seaweed Powder Bath for 6 weeks and document how it changed their skin and what they thought of the products. And the results we got from that were phenomenal. Now, we have an example of a girl, Angelica Phillips, who had really remarkable results. You see her before and after pictures here. And today, she's 18 months removed, and she still has very reduced symptoms. With that said, I didn't want to come out with a line that promised to cure anybody. Our products at the Seaweed Bath Company are not intended to treat or cure any illness. All I wanted was something that wouldn't hurt your skin. And so we created the core product group with that in mind. We use great oils like Moroccan argan oil, kukui oil from Hawaii, and neem oil, as well as our seaweed throughout our product line. We actually launched the company in the latter half of 2010, and we're all natural products. We're sold at natural product retailers across the country. For me, I've been off of all prescribed medications for a couple of years now, since the latter part of 2008, and I'm about 80% better. So that's a unique story. However, a lot of our customers, whether they have dry skin or just some irritated skin, they find some relief in our products, and that was our goal, just to provide some relief for people.